said, because you're watching pornography. And one of the reasons why, whenever I speak to a man who's highly manipulated by women and been cheated on several times by a woman, I always ask them, do you watch a lot of porn? And they say, why is that relevant? Like, for example, I had a client who is a billionaire, right? And he is 43 years old, and he just got cheated on by a young girl, very young girl, young beautiful girl. And she was living a whole separate life behind his back. And the first question I said to him is, are you watching pornography? And he couldn't understand why I asked him that. And he said, why are you asking me that? And I said, because if you're 45 years old and this girl is 20 years old and you are sexually compatible, that means that she is very promiscuous, but because you're so used to pornography, you don't see that as a red flag. You see it as, great, I've met a girl that lets me do what I want to her, she lets me choke her out, she lets me throw cucumbers in her wherever. He kept talking about how much they had physical chemistry, and I said, but didn't you see it as a red flag that if you're 20 years older than a girl and she can keep up with you sexually, don't you see that as a red flag that she must have had a lot of history and she has a promiscuous nature? And he said, I never thought about it that way. And I said, because you're watching pornography. When you're watching pornography, what happens is extreme sexual behavior, instead of seeing it as extreme, you see it as exciting, desirable. So the main thing what it does is it takes a man's natural disgust that he should have towards promiscuity. It takes their natural disgust with promiscuity and replaces it with intense desire and love. So you take what should be a red flag and you replace it with obsession. And that's all down to pornography.